actually know if I have a lot to talk about today, but I wanted to cover what my players did in session 5 of my Tomb of Annihilation campaign. Um, it was mostly, almost entirely, the combat that I called Finding Annette, Inet, the granddaughter of Grandfather Zatimbe, although I messed up there, and we'll cover that in a little bit. But they got to the ziggurat to find Viplo, who Grandfather Zatimbe had told them was the last person to be seen with the net. And so they tracked him to a ziggurat, and something to do with zombies. They didn't know what. They got to the ziggurat. They found some mazes. They went into the first room and tried to trace the maze to get to the next room, and it didn't open, but they pushed the door finally. They finally just said, well, we're going to try to open the door. Door gave way, and the other door closed and sealed them in. And then they tried to trace the second maze in that room. They failed. Blades came down from the ceiling and gave them some minor damage. Then they went to the next two rooms. They made it fine to the next two rooms, and they came into the hallway finally, and they get to the feeding pit where Viplo, this halfling, is in the middle of a ritual to feed his son, who is now a ghoul. He sees the players. He's like, no, what have you done? Don't try to stop me. I have to have my boy alive. That sort of thing. And because he had made a deal with Baga Nani, or Nanny Baga? Nanny Baga? I forget her name. One of the Sohn sisters, and to have his son back, right? And what she was going to do is she was using him. See, this is the lore that my players don't know. She was using him to test, basically, the effectiveness of the death curse, basically. So she contacted him. He had lost his son very recently, and she was going to see this out. She's going to put this in an actual test, just to make sure it was all working and everything. So I established that she can come to people into dreams. Later on, she's going to come back into the characters' realm, and she's going to come into one of their dreams. Probably my bard, who has a personal quest that's tied to her because his sister that he didn't even know about is now one of the little creatures, the little dolls that the Sohn sisters have. So she was going to give Viplo a clone, basically, of his son, for that, because she doesn't care. She doesn't care if clones happen or whatever. And that's that's how players are going to come back if they die, by the way. So they're going to come back if they die, because I told my players at the very beginning of the campaign, death was a very real possibility. And so if they die, they're going to come back as a clone of themselves. And maybe they'll know it, maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe only they'll know it, but they're going to be told not to say anything. That could be interesting. That could be really interesting. Like, they know they're a clone, but they're not supposed to say anything to the other characters, and they have now sort of nefarious purposes, which could be very interesting. I don't know. I don't like to pit my players against each other typically, but maybe if it's not totally bad, then it's fine. Anyway, so Viplo freaks out. He's like, no, you've interfered with this whole thing. This is crazy. He flips a lever and like a bunch of zombies and his son come out, which is this cool halfling. And there's 3 people chained up to this wall, and one of them is a net, and then 2 commoners. And the zombies ignore the players entirely, and they go straight for the people chained up. So my rogue, the rogue of the party, she immediately fires a shot at Viplo and almost kills him in a single shot, which was pretty amazing to me. Like, I couldn't really believe that she had almost killed him, and I was like, oh boy, I gotta have him alive. But I was lucky that he didn't, and I was giving him 3/4 cover because he was behind an altar and he's a halfling. So he got 3/4 cover. So nobody was able to get a shot off of him after that, and thankfully, because he would have been down in 2 shots. He really was not strong at all. His stat bar, I think he had like 10 HP, which is horrible. I should have maybe beefed him up a little bit. So the party decides that they need to save this Annette person, because that's how they're going to get rewarded. That's how they're going to get their answers from Savras that they wanted, and the stuff from the Temple of Savras that Grandfather Zatembe promised them. So they go to start saving the Annette, and they don't really care about the commoners. It's pretty funny. They're like, Annette went down, and then they actually wasted some healing on her, which was nice to see, because I thought, well, she's dead. And then it was surprised to see that my players spent some healing on her, which was great. We were down 2 actual players, so I had Undril come with him, so I played Undril. We had 2 clerics with us, which has actually really helped out the party, I think. And eventually they defeated the zombies and Viplo, but it was a tough battle. Like, 2 of them went down to 0 hit points, and there is a thing where they go down to 0 hit points and they start having bad dreams, and they start having like these terrifying visions and stuff, which I totally forgot. So next session I'm gonna have to retcon that in. I wasn't expecting anybody to go down to 0 quite this early, and I was just like so caught up in combat and everything going on, and sometimes people, sometimes we forget stuff, which brings me to another point. So they finally rescue Annette, and she says that she's Grandfather Zatembe's daughter, which, no, she's the granddaughter, but I misspoke, and so I rolled with it. And then my characters were immediately suspicious, because they're like, what? Grandfather Zatembe did not mention that you 2 were related. And I was like, oh, no. Oops. That's on me. Now my players immediately have like a reason to distrust Grandfather Zatembe when I really wanted them to trust him. So I'm like, oh man. And I'm like thinking, I'm scrambling in the back of my head, how I'm going to play this off. I don't know. Anyway, I get back to Temple Savras, and they immediately go into Grandfather Zatembe. Well, why didn't you tell us this was your daughter? And he's like, well, it's not something that we talk about. And like, I didn't see how it was important or whatever. And I think they bought that. I think they sort of, like, maybe the way I role played it was convincing enough that he wasn't truly trying to hide anything from him. And he wasn't. It was DMing on my part. That was the factor. So hopefully that didn't have him freak out or anything. Hopefully they still trust him. I think they do. So they asked the questions. My rogue just wanted gold. She didn't want any questions asked, which is weird because she has a personal backstory that ties to Cholt, that brings her to Cholt, but she's not playing it at all. So I don't know. I might have to remind that player that there's a reason she came to Cholt in the first place. I don't know, but her backstory is she broke into a member of the company of the Yellow Banner's house and uh, found a journal saying that they're going to go to Cholt to look for some very valuable relics, and her goal is to become like a very successful rogue and thief, and uh, so this is something that she seemed like would be right up she'd want to do, right? But she didn't have any questions about what happened to the company of the Yellow Banner or anything. So I don't know. Might have to talk to that character, see how much they're playing their backstory or whatever, or remind them that they have a backstory. I'm not sure, or maybe they're just not into it, and maybe we need to find a new backstory for them. But all she wanted was gold. The other characters wanted stuff that related to their backstory, which is good. So everybody else wanted something that related to their backstory, pretty much. And then Androl basically said, so one of my characters is specifically interested in resurrection because of her backstory, and so that was great. So she asked, "What's the problem with resurrection?" And then Androl was like, elaborated on that because I wanted to make sure this got tied in. Is the difficulty of healing magic connected to the problems with resurrection? And of course it is, but I want that to become very specific because if you watch my previous video on my interpretation of the death curse, basically I'm kind of giving the players little bits of the main quest as they go along, and so they don't even know they're on the main quest, and they're finding out little tidbits of information that are all going to tie together like this big long thread to the very end, and it's going to be great. Hopefully I hope it's going to be great. So that was it. They basically went back to the Thundering Lizard after that. Zintembe said he would give the rogue gold, so she's going to get some gold. He's going to steal from the coffers of Temple of Sabras, basically, and give her some gold. She had a very good persuasion roll. And then they're going to go to Thunder and Lizard. They're going to meet Rokah, who is with the Zentarum. He is going to give them the quest to go to, what is it? Oh my gosh, I forget all these things. Hold on. What is it? What distraction? Fort Beluarian. So he wants to take in Fort Beluarian because he wants to find proof that the captain of Fort Beluarian, the commander of Fort Beluarian from the Flaming Fist, is in league with the pirates, and he wants to find proof of that so he can stop that because it's costing the Zentarum money, basically. And because that's all the Zentarum care about is that money. And then he's going to make them an offer to pay for a guide for them and cover the cost of the Charter of Exploration, which will be great. They'll definitely go for that because they're very concerned about all that, the cost of a guide and the charter and stuff like that. So they're very concerned. So I don't see a problem really convincing them to go for that quest. And then when they get back from that quest, which should take a day of time, so that'll be day 12. They're at the end of day 11 now. So day 12, that'll take them all day of the Fort Beluarian thing. And one of my characters, one of my players, her backstory is directly, I don't know why I can't say that word, directly related to the commander of the Flaming Fist, who that player used to be a member of the Flaming Fist, and that was her commander back in Baldur's Gate. And it turns out that there's some stuff there, like her commander set her up to get killed. And she doesn't quite know that yet, but she will find proof of that there, which ought to be really interesting. So, and then I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with that. I don't know if I want them. I mean, she clearly is not going to be high enough to take her on just now, but I don't want. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want them keep going back to Fort Beluarian. It's not that super interesting of a location for me. But I might make it somehow. The commander and her come to some blows somehow later on in the jungle or something like that, and give that player a chance to redeem herself and fulfill her personal quest. And then so hopefully, if all goes well, they're going to find proof. Rokah's going to pay them, offer to get them a guide, that sort of thing. They'll come back on day 13. They'll meet with the guides. Now he's going to offer to give them river mist and flask of wine for free because he knows them. So he is going to offer to broker a deal for river mist and flask of wine, which they don't have on their radar yet because they're not approved Jobel guides. So they know they exist, but they're not really that interested in them. And I think, though, once he says, yeah, I can get them to lead you for free, basically into the jungle, like, they'll be very much about it because this group is very concerned about the cost of things. And that's not for nothing. I've sort of done that on purpose. I mean, I've sort of set that up as a DM because I kind of tried very hard to get them to arrive at Port Naranzaru with like almost no gold, so they would have to spend some time there before they could venture out into the jungle. So they're starting to get some gold now, not enough to pay for guides and stuff like that, but they're getting close, And then with what Zentimbe gives the rogue, they'll probably be pretty good. After this, with Rokah, they'll definitely have enough to go out into the jungle and, with just buying supplies and stuff, insect repellent and the water skin, water tent thing. So that's basically it. So the next, I think, so it's Fort Beluarian, session 6. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the whole session. I am going to have some backup in case my players don't go for it, of course, but I really think they will. I'm going to sort of bet the farm on it a little bit. That's absolutely foolish of me. As soon as I do that, they're going to absolutely do the very opposite thing. Don't worry, but I do have some encounters I've already written up and stuff like that I can fill up time with if they decide to just go completely wild card on me. And then the next session will be finding a guide and dinosaur races, probably. And then they want to rob that bookie guy. And then that would get them enough to go into the jungle. And then after that, they could probably go into the jungle fine. And that would get them up to level 3. And it looks like they're going to, because I have one player character and I have now an NPC that's important to them with Undril, because Undril sort of made herself very useful during the fight with Viplo and actually brought up the two characters that got to 0. So she healed them. So now they're sort of in this debt to her, and I think like she's going to be very valuable to them. Both my player character and Undril definitely want to go to Fort Righteous, which we know is destroyed. They do not know that Fort Righteous is destroyed, though, and they will find that out when they get there, and then find out is now Fort Vengeance, or Camp Vengeance, whatever it is. So that'll be interesting. But I think that's probably where they're going to go. when they want to do the jungle, but it's fine, whatever they want to do. The music stopped. Wow, the music stopped. I thought I had that on loop. Anyway, yeah, I like my new backdrop. So that's about it for this. This is a pretty short one, I think. Again, if you have any comments, any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Any thoughts about the way that I'm sort of setting this up? I know you're not seeing the game streams. Yeah, so I know you're not seeing what's happening at the table, and you're relying on a unreliable witness, myself. I mean, sort of unreliable. I'm telling it from my perspective of what happened, and I'm giving you a very, very sort of cursory summary of like a 4-hour session. But hopefully that'll be changing. Hopefully, I don't know, but I'm gonna try to do something about that so we actually have some session play and stuff, and so you can actually see my players in action there and sort of what they do. I think that's really fun. I've personally been watching a lot of player sessions from a bunch of different DMs, and I really enjoy it. It's been a lot of fun. I'm currently watching a bunch of sessions from Key from the Golden Vault, because I'm going to start running that soon, start playing duck games. I'm really excited about that because I'm pretty excited to do some heist missions. I think those are going to be a lot of fun and give me a chance to really stretch my legs as a DM, and my players too, to do something that's not necessarily combat intensive. Would be fun. So hopefully that'll be coming soon. So hopefully I'll have some player streams soon, some like live play stream stuff. That'd be great. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Look me up on startplaying.games. I'm going to start GMing over there soon. Very soon, within the next week or so. I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Never professionally DM'd before, but that should be fun. I've been DMing for a long time, and you know, I've only been playing 5e for a couple years, but it's been fun. So my biggest thing is getting all the 5e rules, but otherwise I feel like I have a good handle on how to pace a game. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I make mistakes, obviously. I just told you about some of them, but I feel like I had a good handle on how to pace a game, how to sort of keep players engaged, hopefully. And I try to be fair. And I think that's, I think that's a really big thing. Is like just have a fair DM, that's going to make the game fair. Like, so hopefully that all happens soon. And, I'll put some links in the description stuff so you can go check out my profile there and hopefully sign up and maybe follow me. And then, when I run some games, come on, join me. Let's play. And then you can test out my DM style for yourself. And I'll see you later. Thanks very much.